What's up, painting friends? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Stoof. Today we're going to do a painting of a rose flower up close. We're going to use acrylic paint for this one. And I started with a black canvas, so I had a white canvas and I just painted it black and let that dry. Now we're ready to add some paint. Alright, so looking at our paints here, we have cadmium red, flesh tint, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow medium. This one is cadmium yellow pale. This is sap green. This is crimson, so we have a warm red and a cool red. This is phthalo blue, burnt umber, black, and titanium white. So I'm going to start with this brush right here, which is a fine round-tipped brush, and I'm just going to sketch out the scene. So we're going to just dip the brush into the water a little bit there. I'm going to take a little bit of red and white just to get a little bit of a color that we can see on here. I'm going to start by sketching out just the outline part of each petal, just so before adding any shading, the first thing I do is just kind of sketch the rose with the paint. So we're gonna put the, let's see here, I'm looking at my reference photo. So we're going to start at the center. I want you to, when you're painting your rose, this is an 8" by 10" canvas. I want you to think about how much space your rose is going to take up. Do you want your rose flower to take up the whole canvas? That's what I'm aiming for here, or at least most of the canvas. So think about that. If you start making your petals really tiny, you might have to go back and touch them up again to make it large enough to fit your entire canvas. And we're just doing these little squiggly lines. If you start at the center, it makes things a little bit easier because you have a nice starting point to work out from. And then you just keep building up your petals around and around. Some of them are angled a little bit differently. Depends on your viewpoint. And I'm not making this an exact perfect match to my reference photo. I'm just using my reference photo to get an idea of the general shape of these petals and how large to make each petal, so then I have enough to cover the canvas. And then we start to see the part where the petals are opening up and bending over themselves. They're not just like a bud, they're starting to actually open up. So that's what I'm painting here, this little lip of the flower. It starts to come down a bit. Put this here. If you are brand new to painting roses, then this might be tricky for you. I would recommend, if you're new to painting roses and you're not used to what shapes to paint or what proportions to use, then I would recommend using the grid method and taking a reference photograph and then working from that. That might help you out with just getting started. And I have videos on the grid method. You can watch those. I will put a link for that in the description under this video. Sometimes it helps if you get a little bit lost, if you know where your flower is folding over and starting to open up, you could paint those parts of the flower white, or, you know, a lighter color so that it separates. That's what I'm doing right here. Just filling in a little bit of color there where it's going to separate from the, part of the petal that is not open and catching all of the light. And then the roses start to get like kind of a diamond or pointy ear shape on the outer part of the petals. Alright, and just like that, we've got our rose sketched out. Sketching out the rose makes things much easier moving forward. Now we know where all the petals are, and we can start to add some detail and some shading. So I'm gonna switch to this flat-tipped, still fine brush, and I'm gonna start to blend some colors here. Alright, so I just mixed some crimson, flesh tint, white, cadmium red, and a little dash of yellow ochre. I'm gonna add a little more white to that, and a little bit more flesh tint. And now you can see I have those two colors right there. One's a little bit of a lighter tint, and we're going to start by just filling this in right here. And another good thing about using black first is that you can tell if you really put on a thick coating of paint, you could still see the black through the pink I just put on here. So that's, you know, it's good to use black because then you can make sure you really have a thick application of paint on your canvas. You're not leaving any white spaces, or in this case, black spaces. So we've got a highlight here. The light is nice and bright on this rose petal here. I'll let that sit. I'm going to add a little bit of crimson and my cadmium red and a little bit of my blue. I'm just going to touch that up on the edge. Let that blend. I'm very softly pressing the brush here, just letting it blend into the color on the canvas. And now we're going to take more yellow ochre with the colors that were already on the brush, and we're going to add that right here, right up to the inner portion of this petal. Ochre and some white. Got like a nice little yellow highlight up here, and just let that blend in, very lightly holding the brush again. Taking a little more of my red and some cadmium yellow medium, and then we can add some of that right here. So you can see we've already had a bunch of different colors in just this one petal. Whole bunch of stuff going on this flower petal. Lots of nice colors. It's kind of like that warm glow inside the petal here. And we'll come back to that one when we want to add a highlight later. Now let's work towards the left. So let's add color for this guy. So we're going to use our crimson, white, and that's good. We'll just put that right here. This part's in shadow. Then we're going to add that red and orange mixture, red and cadmium, yellow medium. Now they're really nice color there. Start to brighten this up a bit, and I'm going to keep my brush strokes coming towards the bottom of this petal, while coming down and in towards the center there. And let's take a little more crimson. And I'm just gonna put a little shadow right under that petal. Start to pull that down just a little bit there. Alright, and then we're gonna take, this was just a mix of flesh tint and white, and we have a really nice bright highlight right here. And then that helps me to realize that this contact right here needs to get darker, so I'm mixing my burnt umber with my cadmium red. And we're just gonna put that right there. And that's gonna help separate those two petals. And we can go even darker. It's usually what I do at the end, but for now, just want to separate these a bit more. Okay, we're gonna keep moving in. Now we have some cadmium red with our cadmium yellow medium. And that is right here. Let's take a little crimson in there too. I'm gonna go right up, flush against that nice highlight you just put in. I'm gonna take a little more of my ochre and cadmium yellow medium. Just pull this right over here. Let that blend in. Then I'm going to take my brown with my crimson. I'll take a little bit of blue too, just to really cool that down. And I'm going to put that right at the contact between the shadow and the highlight. And then let that blend in. By lightly pressing. I'm going to take just some straight cadmium red. Put that right there and right there. Let that blend in. Take our shadow dark color again. So the rose is starting to come to life a little more now. Take some flesh tint. Now we can do the highlight at the top of this little shadow that we put in. It's a little bit more brown and umber in our shadows. Just taking a hint of that cadmium yellow medium again and touching up a little spot in there. Let's move up. Let's go to this one. So we need some crimson and our flesh tint, cadmium red, cadmium yellow medium, and we'll just put that right here. Then we want to go a little darker for the base. So I just took my crimson with my umber and get the extra paint off the brush. And we'll just blend those together. And I'll take a little flesh tint. Just put that right there. And just do our flesh tint. And put that right here. Now we can do our highlight. And let's start working backwards here. So let's take our cadmium yellow medium and our cadmium red. Just add that right here. We'll mix a little bit of umber into that. Make sure you go right up to your highlights. Don't leave any black space between there. Get a little more crimson and umber and ochre. All right, and then the sun starts, or the sun's starting to light up the petal here, so I'm going to take some flesh tint and a little bit of ochre. Now here you want your brush strokes to come from the center and out towards the outer part of the petal. And if you're doing a highlight, you can start at the outer end of the petal and just bring those highlights back in. More rows on this side. Oops, a little too much red there. Just blend that back in. There we go. All right, now we're just going to take some of our brown with our crimson and get that outer edge again. So far so good. Where do we want to go next? Let's do this one. So I'm just going to take some of my flesh tint and my crimson and some white. This one's a little cooler pink. We'll add that. Just gets a little bit more crimson towards the center. Crimson with a hint of blue. Then you just blend it up. Take the extra paint off your brush and then you just lightly go back and forth. It'll blend it right up into your other colors. Okay, now we'll take our flesh tint and we'll get this highlight right on the edge there. So that you guys can access the reference photograph. And I'll even throw a grid on there too for an 8" by 10" canvas so that you can already have the grid on there and you can just sketch the grid out onto your canvas and then you just look at what's on the grid in the photo and then you look at what is going to go in each box on your canvas and you just transfer what you're seeing right over. It's looking good. So it's starting to come to life more and more as you see the shading being added. All right, I just want to add another little shadow right there. So I'm going to take some crimson. We're just going to put that right there. Definitely need to do lots of blending. All right, so this one's a little warmer, yellow, more on the yellow spectrum. So we're going to take some of our flesh tint with our yellow ochre, and we're going to add the highlight for this guy. Then we start to add some cadmium red. A little more cadmium red as we get closer to the center of that petal. Let's add just a little bit of flesh tint and white. This is like a super bright highlight here, right along that rim. And we'll just, oops, carry that highlight down. And we'll just mix our cadmium medium, a little bit of yellow, medium. Come back over here. Just blend, 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 blend. And we'll take our crimson and put that right down here. And we're going to take some crimson with some blue, a little bit of phthalo blue. It's going to give us a deep purple. You still want to be on the warm side of your purples because so you want to have more red than blue, but you want it to be really dark. All right, and we'll go back to our warmer red. Let that transition back. All right, I'm going to touch up this highlight again too. All right, looking good. We're just going to keep moving in towards the center here. I'm going to start with this one here. This is also a more yellow one, so I'm going to take some yellow ochre with my flesh tint and a bit of, we're going to take some of that other yellow too. So I took cadmium red too, and my yellow pale. Yeah, this one's really yellow. A little more red. And we're going to add this one right there. I'm just blending a little more red. And we're just going to transition that into that color. And then now I'm seeing this shadow should be a little bit larger. So I'm going to take a little bit more of my brown, blue, and my crimson. I'm going to touch that shadow up, make it a little deeper. There's a little separation there I'm seeing now. As you start to add detail, you'll start to see more things, or you may have made a little mistake when you were sketching it out, and that's fine. We are using acrylic paint, so we can easily make some adjustments. Okay, now let's go back to that petal we were on and add a little crimson and some yellow ochre. And we're going to pull that right here and let that blend up. Then we've got a shadow. This is a highlight right there, actually. We've got a highlight. Then we're going to take some crimson and we're going to cool that down. A little bit of white with our cadmium yellow medium and our flesh tint. I'm just adding that highlight again here. And then we'll let that blend down. Got another little highlight on one right here. Just taking our cool colors for the shadows. So basically it's pretty repetitive. It's just the same thing for every single petal. I'm just working with different colors for each petal. If you noticed, the light is hitting these petals in different ways. Some petals are showing off a little bit more yellow colors and some are showing off a little more of those cooler pinks. And then our shadows have even more. So by just practicing painting roses in different colors and different lighting situations, you'll get the hang of it. Alright, I'm going to take more of our crimson and we're going to Mix that with our brown again. We'll add that right at the contact between this highlight. And then we have a little bit of a transition here. So the closer you get to the center of the flower, that's when things, you start to get more intricate little detailed lines. So you need to, you might need to switch over to a smaller brush. This is my cadmium yellow medium with my cadmium red and some flesh tint, and I'm just kind of putting this all in the center, and then I'll just go in and I'll add those details in a bit. The center's colors are a little bit more of the same warmth. Take our flesh tint, and I'll just blend that in with that cadmium yellow medium and red color again. The inside of our rose is a little bit in shadow, so we don't want to go too bright with our highlights on the rim and the center, unless it's on like the side where the light is all catching it. Take a little more brown and blue and crimson. Let's get that really dark red color. And we got really deep shadows. And we'll build up this shadow right here. Take my crimson again, and I'm going to touch up this spot here. So it just gets a little trickier, especially when you have a small canvas, when you're working in the center. Take some more of our red, cadmium medium, a little bit of yellow ochre. Gonna boost this one a bit too. Then we have a dark shadow under that one, so we need some crimson with our burnt umber. Yeah, we can just take some red with a little bit of cadmium yellow medium and just add that right here. All right, now let's move down here. Okay. Take another crimson with our brown. And I'll take some cadmium red too. And we'll just put that right under this guy. And I'll take some cadmium yellow medium, mix it in with our cadmium red. Let's add some ochre and a little bit of white. And we'll just make a little highlight there. And we'll do a shadow on the other side of that. A little more brown. And we got some more shadows down here. Which kind of fades into this ochre-y color. I'm going to next, let's do this highlight here. So let's take some of our flesh tint. And we'll add a little bit of our cadmium red and our cadmium yellow medium. Let's put that right here. Alright, we got that. Now let's move to, we got that one in there. We have one hiding back here. It's just going to be crimson, white, and flesh tint. Let's do a little blue actually. And I'm just going to add some red to warm that back up because I went too crazy with the blue. Crimson, brown, blue. There's a little black too. Black's really strong. And we'll do this guy. Lots of ochre mixed with our flesh tint. And that kind of turns into a warm brown. So mix brown with our cadmium yellow medium and some more ochre. Just add more brown when you want it to get darker and less saturated. And back to our nice flesh tint color. Needs some more white and a little bit of crimson. Looks good. And we're going to mix a little bit of our crimson and our umber, or sorry, our sienna, or crimson and yellow ochre. That's what I just mixed. Take a little more crimson and we'll put that right along this edge here. We got like a little bit of dark red along the edges there. And just let it blend in. Just add more brown. Oops. More brown. Alright, now we've got another nice highlight right here. I'm going to mix my cadmium red with my white. And that is just because I ran out of flesh tint, and that gets me close in color to what I need. Just need some red, umber, brown. And that color goes right under here. Alright, now we can get some more brown. Let's put that right at the bottom there. We can mix a little brown with our sap green. That's going to go right here. And we could take some of our cadmium red, a little bit of blue mixed in there. Take some more white with our cadmium red, a little bit of our yellow. Add a little crimson. A little more crimson. A little bit of ochre mixed in there. Take a little more red and some of your cadmium yellow medium. And we can put that right along this edge here. Add a little bit more cadmium red. Add that too. And some more of our ochre. I'm going to add that right there. Alright, we're going to use some more flesh tint with crimson for down here. And we're just going to mix a little brown in there, a little bit of blue. It's going to give us a nice shadow under here. Take some more flesh tint with our crimson. Just more on the flesh tint side. You want it to be lighter. Just mixing my cadmium yellow and red, a little white. I'm going to touch up this spot here. Mix a little bit of yellow ochre and cadmium yellow, medium. A little more ochre over here. And let's do a little bit of brown, ochre, and a little hint of crimson is in there. I'm just going to let that kind of fade into that warm red. I'm going to do that over here too. Ah, a little too much brown there. Just a little more ochre right here. All right. So that's looking pretty nice. I just have some final touches to really make this come to life. You can, stop whenever you feel like you've reached the level of detail that you want. But for me, I like a lot of detail, and I like things to stand out a little more with a little bit extra contrast. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do those things now, and then we'll have a finished painting. And after that last round of detail, we come to a finished painting. Ta-da! Hope you guys enjoyed this painting tutorial. If you recreate this rose painting, then you can post it on your Instagram and tag me, The Painting Stoof, or you could post it on my Facebook page, The Painting Stoof. Hope you guys had fun with this one. Have a great day, and happy painting. Bye-bye!